All right, let's dive into something pretty cool today. It's a story about boba tea, video games, and artificial intelligence. A business owner had a huge hit on his hands, but he needed to know why it worked. So he fed all his sales data to an AI, and what came back is, honestly, a perfect lesson for anyone running a business today.
So it all started with this one simple question. In a special collaboration between a boba shop and a video game, which character would actually get people to buy the most tea? It seems straightforward, but the real answer was buried deep inside thousands of customer orders.
So here's the backstory. A boba shop called Bear House did a team up with the super popular game Blue Archive, and the campaign was a massive success. Sales just went through the roof, which, is every business owner's dream, right? But the owner was smart. He wanted to go deeper than just it worked. He wanted to move past guesswork. And that's the key, right? He knew that if he wanted to make the next event even bigger, he couldn't rely on gut feelings. He needed cold, hard data. Because guessing is one thing, but numbers tell you the real story. So instead of spending weeks buried in spreadsheets trying to crunch all the numbers by hand, the owner turned to an AI assistant named Claude. He just took all that raw, messy sales data from the event and basically said, "Hey, can you make sense of this for me?" And you know what? The actual process was so much simpler than you might think. He just took a sample of 720 real orders, uploaded the file, and then asked the AI, just using plain English, to analyze it all and make some charts. That's it. No complicated code, no data science degree needed. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, because the AI didn't just spit numbers back at him. It pulled out three really clear, surprising truths that were just hiding in the data, and they totally challenged what the owner thought he knew about his own business. First up, the big question. Who sold the most boba? The winner was Nagisa. But, look how close this was. The real shocker here is that there wasn't a clear winner at all. All three characters were almost equally popular. This wasn't a story about one runaway favorite. But honestly, that character data, that wasn't even the biggest surprise, not by a long shot. The most powerful insight the AI found had nothing to do with who they liked and everything to do with where they were.
Just look at these numbers. The branch at MBK Center pulled in almost 21% of all the campaign sales. But the crazy part is the Central World branch, which is literally a short walk away, had way, way lower sales. You'd think they'd be pretty similar, right? Nope. This showed there was a massive, concentrated hub for this fan base at one specific spot.
And to put that in perspective, that single MBK branch sold 10 times more than several of the out-of-town branches combined. Any assumption that the game's fans were spread out evenly across the country was just completely wrong. They were clustered right there. All right, so we've got the who and the where, but the AI found a third piece to this puzzle, and it was all about the when. The timeline of the sales was just as revealing. Check out this trend. You see this huge, massive spike on day one. Everyone had that fear of missing out. They had to get in right away. But then, look what happens. By just day 4, sales had already tanked by 4 times. A day later, interest was down 60%. The hype was real, and it was intense, but it burned out fast. Okay, but here's where the story takes a wild turn. Feeling pretty good about this, the owner took the exact same data file and uploaded it to a different AI, one called Menus AI, just to see what would happen. And what happened next is a huge cautionary tale for anyone using these tools. So get this. On one hand, you had Claude, our reliable analyst, giving factual data-backed insights. But on the other hand, Menace AI? Well, it just started making stuff up. It invented a completely fake drink called Aurora Milk Tea. It made up a statistic that the campaign brought in 28% new customers. It even gave sales data for store locations that don't even exist. This is a classic example of what people call AI hallucination. You can just imagine the owner's reaction, right? He was completely floored. He gives it a simple Excel spreadsheet of sales, and it comes back with this fantasy world of fake drinks, made-up stats, and imaginary stores. It was a pretty stark reminder that not all AI tools are created equal.
All right, so let's get back to the real data, the stuff we can actually trust, and talk about what you do with it. The owner wisely ignored the creative liar and focused on those verified insights to build a real, actionable strategy.
So what's the game plan for next time? Well, it's pretty clear. First and foremost, Data beats gut feelings every single time. The new strategy is to concentrate all marketing and events at that proven hub, the MBK branch. You stock up like crazy for that massive day one rush. And maybe most important of all, you put your resources where your customers actually are, not where you just assume they'll be.
And I think this whole thing is a perfect example of how we should be thinking about AI. The point isn't to just hand off your thinking to a machine and hope for the best. It's about using the machine as this incredibly powerful tool that helps you see the patterns, connect the dots, and ultimately help you think better. Which kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on. As these AI tools get smarter and, frankly, more creative, maybe our biggest challenge isn't going to be about writing the perfect prompt. Maybe the most important human skill of all will be developing the wisdom to know when to trust what it's telling us and when to realize it's just telling a really convincing story.